welcome everyone to the March 24th, 2025 regular board meeting for the town of Aberdeen, and we're glad you're here. I think we're pretty safe if you turn around and look at the back wall, unless somebody in here wants to cut up. Go ahead. If you want to follow along, there are agendas on the table. When you came in, you could pick one up. And we'd like to welcome anyone that's at home that may be listening or viewing this, because it is broadcast. And so with that, I will start with item number 1, is call to order, which is the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. I'll close out number 1 and go to number 2, which is setting of the agenda.
There are no changes, Mayor.
No changes.
I make a motion, we accept, approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Anyone? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Close out 2, go to number 3, which is consent agenda. All items listed below are considered routine or have been discussed at length in previous meetings. It will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion will be held except on request by a member of the Board of Commissioners. A, consider approval of minutes of regular board meeting of February 24, 2025, budget retreat of March 7, 2025, and work session of March 10, 2025.
I make a motion that we accept the
Motion and a
minutes.
second. Discussion from the board. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. All right, we're rolling, folks. Down to number 4, informal discussion and public comment. And I do have someone, I meant to mention, if you did want to speak on an item, there are requests to speak papers on the desk when you came in. If you'd like to speak on a topic, please fill one of these out and let the clerk know so we'll know who you are. And I do have one from Ms. Cameron.
Hello. I'm just here tonight on behalf of the Friends of the Aberdeen Library Gala Committee. I've been honored to chair or co-chair that with Adriana Jenker, and we just want to say thank you very much for all of your support and all of your hard work for the library effort. We're so very close and we're very excited, and we hope to see some of you at our gala at the Soiree on South on April 10th from 6 to 9 p.m. So I just wanted to have a public forum so we could address that and just make sure everybody knows they're welcome. And we're still selling tickets. We hope to sell out those. So if you haven't gotten yours yet, get one. If you did already, thank you very much. And we're going to adjourn now to go have our last meeting before the gala to get everything done.
And it is a wonderful night. If you haven't been, you really ought to try to go and support what they're doing over there. Tell them where it is.
It's going to be at Soiree on South, which is across the street from the Argentinian restaurant that's there on, not a Guatemalan restaurant,
Guatemala.
not, I always say Argentine. But that's where it's going to be. It's going to be all decorated. We're going to have some wonderful food and some great entertainment. We've got a Moore County Philharmonic quartet going to be playing for us there tonight. We have some children doing a little skit with a song and some music, so it's going to be a little different, but we hope to have a lot of fun and raise a lot of money that night. Our goal is to raise $30,000 that evening.
And this is going to the new library.
Yes, it's going to the Bigger, Better Library. Yes, sir. We're very, very close to our goal, thanks to all the hard work of all the local businesses, local officials, all our volunteers, everybody who's been a part of this. We are just so grateful that we're working on this together. So
The last, we keep trying to get an update. They're talking about maybe the end of the summer getting in.
well, I've heard a
Sometime like
couple
that.
of dates. Definitely, we're thinking by fall. So
Yeah,
we've got a
in the
lot of
fall.
great ideas and plans and things to do still, but it's just very exciting to be at this point.
Yes. Very
So thank
exciting.
you very much.
And thank all of you that are on the committee working on this. Okay. Anyone else? Informal discussion, public comment. Anyone? Anyone? Formal comments? All right. I don't hear anyone, so I'll close 4 and go to number 5.
Yep,
No,
we got
excuse me,
oath of
A. I gotta go to A. Oath of office for public official, police officer, excuse me. Joseph, and you will have to say his last name. Furyk.
Yes, sir.
I didn't,
Furyk.
I didn't wanna mess it up.
Commissioner Paul. Tonight, we're going to be swearing in Joseph here. A little bit about Joseph. He's from California. He joined the Army in 2010. He came to North Carolina in 2021 in March. He retired March of 2024 in the U.S. Army. He served 14 years as an infantryman. He graduated from DLET in May of 2024 from Central Community College. Started with the Coast Police Department in August of 24. He's married to Amanda Furyk, 3 kids, Joseph, Bella, and Mia, and tonight his son, Joseph, will be holding the Bible for him, if you would come forward.
You'll place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I, Joseph Furyk,
I, Joseph Furyk,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent with therewith,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
execute and discharge
execute and discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a police officer
as a police officer
for the town of Aberdeen,
for the town of
so
Aberdeen.
help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The reason you can sleep well at night is the men and women in blue going out the door back there. We appreciate all of them. Okay. All right, that closes out number 4. Number 5 is manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. You have the written report on your desk in front of you, and you've got the standard by department updates and statistics. So really good month. If you look at those numbers a little bit more carefully, you'll see that. Just a few other little highlights. You know, we're kind of deep in the middle of our budget process, so we've got all the draft expenses from each department head. So Butch and I are going through those now, and we're going to start meeting with the department heads later this week and next week to kind of just go through and kind of craft and try to mold those budgets to something that we can submit to the board at our next meeting, which, as you may recall, that work session, we kind of sit down and kind of really get a full look at the budget on both ends, projected revenue, and some form of the expenses requested. So we're getting there. Really, so far, so good. You know, we still have some numbers, as you may recall, from our budget and strategic planning meeting a few weeks ago. We still got some extra capital matters that we've got to work through still. So we're working through those, and some of it may be more a matter of spreading it out as opposed to not doing them all in 1 year. So, but I think we'll have a handle on that. Working hard on some other changes. I know you've heard for the last several weeks that the admin staff, Regina, has been working really hard on the healthcare renewals. So we're working on that, and a lot going on there, really everywhere in the entire state. So it's an really interesting time in that area. So we're working to put those together. We're getting closer to a number. So we think we'll have a projected number by that meeting, and it may change a little bit at the end of the day when we finally get to the proposed policy that we're going to accept or recommend. So a lot of things still moving around, but the numbers look good. We've got some good, strong revenue projections that are not just wish list revenue projections, but really based on the last 3 or 4 years of our projections. or of our actual revenues. So we feel like we're on a good path, and nothing's changed in that regard. So we feel like we're still extremely healthy and moving forward. I know we've kept you up to date. Really nothing terribly new on the DOT, the replanning program on US 1 and the Highway 5. But the mayor and I were at a meeting last week, and we did get a chance to meet with and talk to for a few minutes our Division 8 engineer, Mr. Blankley, about that plan. So he gave us a little bit more information, which is, again, you know, those projects are still a couple of years away. There's stuff going on now, and you're going to see more and more. So he recommended that, you know, we have a meeting. He said it doesn't have to be immediately the next month or two, but a meeting with the person assigned to that task to get more of a layout of how that process is going to go. But he said, in all earnestness, that we can meet and talk. At least you'll have an idea of, you know, the kind of money and some general ideas, some things to think about. And that's what we'll be able to do, is just think about what we might like to see there. So that's the first step. But he said, really meeting too early with those projects, because things change, and then you can have a great plan, something changes on that, either by a delay or just a change in the routing or what's on the right of way, and it can kind of mess up the planning. So he says it's kind of a sweet spot of when you want to have really those meetings about what to plant and, you know, what it's going to look like. So we've got plenty of time on that. I just want to reassure you, because I know it's a big issue that we get lots of questions, and I know you do too, about, you know, what happened, what's it going to look like at the end of the day. So we are trying to stay informed on that, but I think we're in good shape in terms of planning to have that at least mitigated as well as possible. You know, it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but at least we'll have something there. And you know, once we get that, here's the choices A, B, C, or D. We can start bringing that to the board and say, hey, how do you feel about this area versus another area? So just want to let you know that we're keeping that moving and trying to keep that, you know, as a high priority topic, but one that unfortunately won't have any results here for some time, if that makes sense. So on our minds, but not a whole lot we can do right here now. So, and then finally, I know the library group touched base early in the meeting, which was great to hear from them, and they are doing a tremendous job with their fundraising. I think I mentioned to you recently that there was another grant from the Cannon Foundation that was awarded a couple of weeks ago. That's for $100,000, again, toward the library. And, you know, these grants are great. This one, we got a check last week, the full amount. It's in the bank. So it's already been awarded, paid, and we're here. So we've got reporting to do, you know, as we use the money, which the library group, they're going to help us do those draft reports as we use those funds. So it was another good boost. So between the large donation by the recent donation of $500,000 plus this $100,000, you know, I mean, that's $600,000 just on that in the last, say, 4 months, which is really, that's a big amount. So, and they're still working on some other, probably smaller grants and awards, the library group is. So there'll probably be some other funds trickling in here in the next few months. So Philip tells me that even as of the last couple of days, I think we talked about the drywall a couple of weeks ago. So now they've got some of the finishes up on the wall, the lower part of the wall, that kind of beadboard finish is up. They've got some more work on the handicap ramp, which is going to take place tomorrow to get that to the next stage. So again, it's moving along pretty quickly. And so there are going to be some other interior add-ons. We hope that the Friends of the Library and their one source of either their own funds they've raised through the fundraiser or other contributions that are maybe on the way. So I think they're going to be back, or will be back, with maybe a requested change order to the existing contract, but that will be funded through that library money. So the town, just to be clear, you know, the town has additional funds that's already in the project ordinance. Right now, Butch and I, we're going through, it looks like it's around 170,000, give or take, of additional funds in that project ordinance. That's town revenue. So we still are in pretty good shape. So we definitely have enough to meet our budget. And a little bit, still depends on some money that's not been awarded yet, but we feel pretty certain between, again, the fundraisers locally and these other applications, we're gonna meet our revenue line. Now, and that number is $900 and something thousand. Is that enough to do everything we want to? Probably not. But that's enough to get us, I think, furnished, doors open, and moving forward. There'll always be something next year and year after that to kind of add and get to another stage. So, anyway, that's, it's a good report. So I think we're in really good shape. And if you think back, even a year ago, we weren't anywhere close to this point. So it's kind of come together pretty quickly. So it's a good project, and I encourage everybody to drive by there, walk through the inside of the building, because really, week to week or every 2 weeks, it's a big change, and it's really coming together now. And if nobody's there, you know, you can always call myself or Philip, and we can get you in there and take a look. So it's always good. And Mayor, I think that's all I have, unless there's some questions.
Questions? Just to add on what the engineer said about replanning, we don't have a clue how long it's gonna take them to finish this project out here on US 1. I mean, in 1551, it could take, who knows, years, I don't know. But they're not gonna do any replanning until it's through. So it's gonna look like this for the foreseeable future. One thing he did say was, and that would be brought up with planning, that it has to be native species, anything they plant, which they cut down all the pine trees, and pine trees are native, so there you go, put some pine trees back. They cut down some dogwoods, and dogwoods are native, and I'm not sure what else they cut down, but they said they couldn't put anything back that wasn't native to this end of Moore County. And I know y'all got a list of them.
Mhm.
You already have a list of them, I think. Of
options for the plans?
Yes.
I haven't seen their list, but we can certainly work
Yeah,
with the list.
yeah, but there's no rush on this. I'm just saying that's what he told us. And it, like I said, we don't have a clue when they're gonna finish out here on this highway. So, it's gonna look like this for a while, and there's parts of Aberdeen that I don't recognize.
Mhm.
You ride around, you go, what street is this? Or where is this? They've cut down so
Highway
much.
5 is like that. Every time I ride a Highway 5, it looks different every
It-
time.
It's different. It
Looks
doesn't
like
look like,
they are.
I grew up here, so, you know, I've got memories, when I grew up Highway 5, and I'm like, where is this?
Mhm.
Doesn't look the same. So anyway, that was a good report. Thank you. Any questions from the manager on his report?
Sections.
All right, I'll close out 5 and go to number 6, monthly financial report.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. I'll be as efficient with your time as possible. If you take a look at your computer screen, and we're gonna go over the general fund first and then the water and sewer fund. Take a look at the year-to-date revenues at the end of February. We had a total of $12,040,873 in revenues. At the end of February for expenditures, we had $9,188,495. So we had net income of $2,852,000 for year-to-date through February. Some highlights through the end of February, and I'll throw in some nuggets for the through the day into some of the line items in the highlights. Real and personal property taxes collected at the end of February was 100.72%, or $6,539,000. Excuse me. $6,539,000. Today it was 101.35% collected of $6,580,000. The motor vehicle revenue was 69.13% of budget at the end of February. Today it's 78.85% or $314,000. 2024 fire, real and personal property taxes, there's no change there. We can get that usually on a bi-monthly basis, and it was at 78.45%. Garbage fee revenues was 77.23%, at $588,647. No change there. Those garbage fee bills, as well as water and sewer, will be going out later this week for the month of March. Building permit revenues, as you know, has been running above the budget so far. At the end of February, it's 117.32%, or $381,000 collected. As of today, it's 136.86%, or $444,000. ABC net revenue was 82.58% end of February. Collected was $156,485. No change this month. We normally get that usually on a quarterly basis from the state. Sales tax revenues for the end of 6 months was 52.79% of budget, or collected $1,940,000. As of today, it's 62.75%, or collected $2,306,000, and that's for 7 months. And as a reminder, we always get it. It's always lagged by 2 months. I'll give everybody a heads up on that. Utility franchise tax collections was 56.43% at the end of February, or $319,000 collected. Today it was 82.70%, or $467,000 collected. We normally get that on a quarterly basis from the state. And the power bill revenues, we've already received everything for the year, but we're 126.89% of collections, or $362,892 on budget. Any questions on general fund? Water and sewer fund, we had revenues at the end of February. Yes, sir.
Can you scroll?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
There, that's better.
At the end of February, for revenues for water and sewer year to date, $3,472,000. Expenditures were $2,907,000. The net income there was $565,000 year to date. And as a reminder, with the monthly collections, it keeps the flow more level as we continue through the year. Highlights for water and sewer fund: system development fees at the end of February were 144.25% of budget, or collections $442,800. As of today, it's 159.37%, or $489,275. Water and sewer revenues were 61.39% in February, or $2,586,944 collections. At no change at today, since bills will go out later this week. Water and sewer tap revenues were 128.87% of budget, or $152,061 collections. Today it's 137.47%, or $162,215 collections. And bulk water for Moore County was 43.99% of budget, $195,774. But I got a note today from Joe that they did use some, so if they be the next billing, you'll see that number go up. There's a little about 1.4 million gallons that they used in this month, and it began about a week and a half or so ago. So any questions on water and sewer? And for a total for the revenues for both funds together is $15,513,397. Expenditures $12,095,729. So net income between the two funds is $3,417,668. Any questions on those? And then as a summary, and I will say this each and every month, we have 8 capital project funds going on at the present time. Multi-year, they span over multiple years. I'm not gonna go over all those numbers, but these are through February. I will tell you, the library project fund now, that money flowing in from Mrs. White, all has been transferred in, the $100,000 for Cannon. So that is a positive number now, as we speak, for that one on Fund 64. And the rest of those in the next few weeks or so, the old Aberdeen Elementary School and the downtown Aberdeen project, they will also be a positive number as well, because those were approved a year or so ago, where we could get to the special fund balance project fund information from the old ARP money that we're allowed to do. So we'll go for those particular projects. That's basically all I have tonight. Any questions for me?
So there's nothing in the project activity line for the school because we haven't taken any revenue from
We just haven't transferred
it?
that money over there yet. The money is
The
sitting there.
450,000?
Pardon?
The 450,000?
It's budgeted for $450,000.
Okay.
We've only spent $276,000.
Questions? Sounds good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll close out 6. 7, public hearings and new business, and these, let's see, A is amendments to conditional zoning CA 2201 for Aberdeen Station submitted by Mr. Lemos.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. If I can get this to pull up. There we go. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you some requested changes to a previously issued conditional zoning for Aberdeen Station. And I'll just go through these slides. Please stop me as you need to. Discussing with Mr. Lemos about the list of allowable uses that were originally approved, which was somewhat limited. And in particular, we had a couple of conversations about daycare use, which was not on the list. And I believe he had some interested parties wanting to establish a daycare there, and I wasn't able to approve that. It would need to come back to you. And at that point, I encouraged them to take a comprehensive look at that list of uses and add whatever they felt they would need for this project so that we could come to you one time with these changes. And that's why we're here this evening. So, as you know, this project originally approved in 2022 and did not have sort of a development partner on board then. This was a town project at that time with expectations to transfer some of the property to others for development. We did come back to you earlier this year with some changes to the plan itself, the layout, and to some degree the mix of residential uses. And then, just full disclosure, did approve some items that staff is allowed to approve for this project, having to do with some of the mix of uses and the location of some of those uses. So just wanted to let you know that. However, the UDO does describe material changes as including changes in use designations, and those need to come back to you. So once again, that explains our reason for being here this evening. As you know, but I just want to clarify because it's important in this context, there are 3 use areas for the property. One is the civic area, which are the buildings that the town is planning to retain and utilize. The residential area, which is more of that northern portion. And then what has been described as a new retail and existing buildings area, which is more of the primary, the school buildings that are there, not the gym and auditorium, and some other areas in that sort of southern and southeastern portion of the site where some new buildings are proposed. And it's just in that new retail and existing buildings where this change of uses would apply. This is the list of allowable uses that was approved with this PD some time ago. And won't read these to you, but obviously they're somewhat limited to uses that you might see on a highway, which this is. Includes some different types of residential uses, but also restaurants and retail sales. Religious institutions are on the list, and minor medical care facilities are on the list. Once again, this is just for that new retail and existing buildings area. There is a list of proposed uses that the Lamoses are interested in adding. Quite a few of these are already defined in our UDO. Where the uses that are being proposed are not defined, We are offering a new definition that would be added to the plan development document for your consideration. Of course, those can be amended at your discretion. Office uses are top on that list, and of course, we already have those defined, and the minor major distinction has to do with the size of the buildings. Major personal services also is being requested, already defined in the UDO, and won't read this definition to you, but I think it's the things that you might expect to see, not so much retail sales, but retail services that would be provided in that area. They have requested that the use of a public recreational facility be added. That does have an existing definition in the UDO, which we're proposing that would apply here. And then, of course, the daycare facility, which I mentioned earlier, also has a definition in the UDO that we would apply to this project. Sports and fitness center is another use that is being requested, and then medical care facility, major or minor. And once again, this distinction, major versus minor, has to do with the size of the building, already defined in the UDO. These are two of the uses that are being proposed that do not have existing definitions. So definitions have been created, and as I mentioned, these can certainly be reworked or tweaked if the board desires. The first one is a co-working space, and these have become more and more popular over the years as people who are either have small businesses or are working for themselves can go to an area and share perhaps a small kitchen or a print room or other uses that so they wouldn't have to make that investment on their own. So they would share it with other users and just be privately maintained, whatever those rents are, and the cost of using those other amenities would be managed by whoever's managing that facility. Boutique hotel is another use that the Lamoses have requested, and no definition. Of course, we do have definitions for accommodations, hotel accommodations, but they wanted something specific here and something that would restrict the size. So a definition is being proposed for this use that would apply to this planned development. And just without reading it, 50 rooms or less was the sort of threshold that they were comfortable with for this use.
50 rooms or less for the boutique hotel?
Yes.
But there's no size in the UDO, or there is?
No size.
Yeah, if it says boutique hotel, then does the UDO say how many rooms?
We don't address boutique hotels at all in the UDO. That's why we're creating this new definition. So, and it is, this new definition would apply to this this project, this planned development. It's a zoning district, and it would limit to 50 rooms or less.
Design from his perspective, or you're gonna make change as a revision in the UDO code, or do we have to even do that?
It can also be picked up by the UDO, but it would certainly control what happens on this site, because this is a planned development zoning district that's specific for this site and this project. I think it might be helpful for the UDO to include all of these definitions in case these types of projects come up in other areas.
Yeah, I think you'll see the point is, with hotel, usually, usually it's defined by size of the lot and space and setback, so it could be really big or it could be smaller. And I think here, they're trying to say, hey, we don't have so much space, let's make it a boutique, which is different. So it's actually just a limiting factor. It's not like creating a new thing. It's just a limiting factor for this space and how much room they have, really. 50 was the number they're looking for, but again, that could be changed too. But so really the idea is every planned development is kind of crafting your own zoning and uses, and so you can define those. So that's why it's not it's kind of reverse. It's not like it's a new use, it's a limiting of a hotel use is what it really comes down to.
That's a good way to put it. And of course, the limos that are here, I expect them to address you after I'm done here. You can ask questions about that, including the location that they're expecting to put this use.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Under the proposed additions, crematory is in there?
That's what I was going to ask
That's-
about.
what is
There's
it?
funeral homes and crematories.
Yeah, it says crematory.
Yeah, I saw the same thing. We went down that road one time, and it, I don't know how long ago this was, it was a long time ago, but we didn't have anywhere to put that, and it wound up almost in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? On
Under what?
Highway 5?
Which one is it under?
Do you remember that? Who, some of y'all can remember that?
I don't think it's in there.
The
That
proposed
doesn't
additions?
seem to fit.
No,
a
it doesn't,
planned
and I don't
development.
believe that's one of the requested new uses.
But it's in there.
It's
It's
in
in
there.
It's in,
It's,
We just saw it.
yeah.
It was
Oh.
back up about 4
in the
slides.
plan, in the plan development
Yeah, if you
itself?
back up about
Yeah.
3 or 4 slides, keep going, go back, keep going. Hold on.
Personal,
Right there.
personal services.
Under personal
Okay.
services major.
Now
Yeah.
I'm getting my memory back on this. The UDO, and I find this problematic too. Personal services, when I think of them, and I'm glad you backed me up on this because I described it as something that you might expect to see as a retail service, such as dry cleaning, laundromats. This mentions jewelry repair and other types of things. But our UDO lumps funeral homes and crematoriums into this category, and I really think it deserves its own category.
I would
thought
agree.
we had done that.
The way and I'll go back and look, and I've got a copy over here, but I don't believe we've done that. I believe it still falls under that personal services major category. Now, for the purposes of this proposal, we can certainly pull that out. We can create a definition for this proposal that says all personal services major uses with the exception of. And then staff can work to determine if that's still in the UDO under that category, we can pull it out. It does deserve its own category.
I'm trying to remember, does anybody remember when this took place out there on Highway 5? We had a crematorium. Were you here?
Yeah,
You remember that?
I remember, and it was kind of strange, but it was several years ago, so
A long
I
time
don't know if it
ago.
was the old code or this one. I almost want to say it was a pre-existing
Yeah,
code.
It was a
before I was on the board,
it
so
was
it
a-
had to be the old one, I
It
would
was a
say.
long time ago. It was
Yeah, it was a
pre-existing
strange
code.
fit, and, I would just say, I would just take it out of this and just,
It-
and if Pam can
there's
fix it later.
There is a place for funeral homes and crematoriums, but I would be cautious about putting it in things like
Right.
this.
Especially a residential area.
In a residential, and that's
Mhm.
what happened with the one that wound up on Highway 5.
Well, like I said, you got two things going on, and really that's the definition now.
Funeral home doesn't fit
But,
either.
so we can't change the UDO at this meeting, but
No,
what we can do though is not make it used for this project, and it would be applicable there.
yes.
So that's there, and then we can fix the other general definition, at a later time with the
And-
UDO in
and-
general.
And again, there are places where they have to be. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't legislate them out.
Yeah.
They have to go
Right.
somewhere and everything.
Right.
If somebody wants to put one here, but I thought we did something after that last time where we kind of narrowed it down where we thought they might go, and I don't remember what it all was. But I know that we had a problem with one that did show up in Aberdeen, that we had no way to say where it could or could not go. And it turned out it was in a neighborhood, basically.
All right. Yeah, I think that's the way to approach this, the concern for this particular project. I do not believe that that's one of the desired uses for the project, so we actually discussed this. So
Yeah.
So for the purposes of this one, this definition can be changed for this project that can include all uses listed here with the exception of, and then staff can work to bring that back to you as a text amendment for our UDO.
Thank you.
Yep, I agree with that.
And
Thank
can we
you for
also
that.
do that with any of
saw
the
it.
other ones that we may be uncomfortable with as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is, you know, your decision on what you feel is appropriate for this
For
site.
that area, right. Because I'd just like to say, if I may at this point, when
Sure.
we first started discussing even purchasing this property, I mean, we didn't have any promises on what it was going to become, but we did at the begin and an onset of it, thought we were going to have more of like a house in, single-family house in like the cottages.
Yeah.
And we were all in agreement that sounded like an awesome idea. And then, now we've gone to single-family housing with other mixed uses, and it sounded good, and we're changing it. And so, you know, I'm just a little uneasy about what is gonna wind up there with all these, you know, allowable uses. Because we wanted to have the control as a board,
Yes.
in a sense, of what we designated would go there, which we do in a sense, but it just still seems like we're making it so broad, you know, and I don't know how the other board members feel about having a hotel at that particular area. We do have quite a few hotels in Aberdeen, which we're proud of. The most current one, the Marriott. So I'm just, you know, a little concerned about that, knowing more what this boutique hotel is going to actually
Well,
be.
you need to keep in mind it hasn't been in recent years, but there used to be a hotel in downtown Aberdeen that burned at one time where the,
1941.
yeah.
And
So-
I watched it burn.
Yeah.
I watched it burn.
You were-
It was on that corner, right?
Was
Well,
Eleanor
that's a
Roosevelt there
good
too?
point. That is also a good point, Tim, to take in consideration.
I'm sorry, what?
I said that is a good point to take into consideration. I've stayed in boutique hotels, and they're very nice as far as they're different. Each room was different, you know, but I was just curious on how I felt about that.
I do agree with your observation. It has changed considerably since we started this. Of what seems like they want to put, if somebody wants to put on this property. I agree with you. Some of the first ones were one thing, and now we're here. We want to make sure, I think this board needs to be real concerned about what this thing will eventually turn out to be, because all of us have seen how many times it's changed.
Yeah.
And it needs to be finalized so that it's good for the client, it's good for the owner, and it's good for the neighborhood, and it's good for the town of Aberdeen.
Yeah, the citizens, because,
The
you know, living
citizens.
there, if I lived close by, I'd be uneasy thinking what are they gonna say they're gonna put there next, you know,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah. I think it needs to be, my opinion, and I don't own the property, and I'm not trying to develop it, but at some point, it needs to be finalized what it is that's gonna go on there, so citizens, if they ask anybody, ask the board members, what is it that's going on up there, we have an answer for it.
exactly.
I just
Anyone
have one
else?
question. That's, where on the property would the hotel go?
I believe the intention is the main school building, but I'd rather that be asked by the Lemoses
Yeah, he can come up,
when they address you.
yeah, he can come up and.
I believe that's the
speak on it.
intent.
Okay.
So, yeah, I completely agree, which is why, you know, I spoke with them and worked with them. I said, "Look, give us the full list of uses that you think you need to make this project viable, and let's go to the board one time." And that's what they've done with this request. And then I'll also add that the UDO, under the commercial use classifications, this personal services does list funeral homes and crematoriums. And I think it was this project that brought that to my attention, and I realized that really needs its own category. I think that it is so different from the other uses here, laundromats, day spas, banks, savings and loans, credit unions, those sorts of things, that the use is more impactful than the other uses in the list. So I think that needs to come out of the UDO and have its own category and where that might be allowed. And we'll work with you and this group and the planning board to determine what you're comfortable
Yeah,
with there.
Like was said a while ago, it's not that we're against them, we can't legislate them out. If somebody has a legitimate reason for one, we need to be able to figure out a suitable place for them and for the people that may be around it.
Yes, absolutely agree. So what we'll do is, when you're ready to make a decision, we'll change the list of conditions to state that uses allowed in that personal services category with the exception of funeral homes and crematoriums. And I think I added boutique hotel twice here, but this slide is really focused on another new use that's being requested that also required a definition to be created, and that's for education and training center. And this is more of a vocational training center, not so much a school or a college, but certainly can have a wide range of educational activities going on inside there. So this definition, which you can see, is what was created for this use.
Now, correct me, it's a public, we are in a public hearing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have to look on the back page to see, I see one is public hearing. So what you're saying is starting the public hearing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. You have anything else for the board?
Yes, if I can, and I'll go through these quickly. I just want you to be aware of the full scope of the request. Farmers Market was also on the list, as you saw, and that really falls under the retail use category that's already approved for this project, but there was no definition for it, so we are including this definition for it, mostly limited to farm products or other handmade craft items that are agriculturally related, and would require I think there's a second, well, maybe not, would require a temporary use permit, which would limit the number of, the frequency. In other words, it would not be a daily use on the property.
Is the term, if you don't mind me asking, is the term boutique hotel, is that just a term that we're given that, or that is in the UDO as a specific description? Because when you read it, it just says 50 rooms with spas and recreational services cafe. It doesn't say any specifications about what a boutique hotel is gonna look like. I mean, it can't be a chain hotel, you're saying. It couldn't be like a Quality Inn or a Comfort Inn.
Probably not the 50 or less rooms.
I mean, it has to be something that's more like a bed and breakfast, similar type.
Well, the UDO doesn't address it at all. The UDO has the broader category of visitor accommodations, I think, and so this would be under that category, but as I believe the manager mentioned, the intent of creating this definition is to limit it so that it doesn't become, 4-story hotel
Right,
like we're
right,
seeing
right.
built elsewhere. And so this definition is what would rule it.
50 rooms or less, okay.
Wait,
We're still
we need
public
to-
hearing.
we need
When
There-
we get through, we'll be glad for you to come on.
Absolutely, there'll be an opportunity. So when I finish, the applicants would like to address the board, and then anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak can also
Yes, ma'am.
do that. And could be that some of your questions are answered as we go through this presentation.
Yes, ma'am, it's a
And
public
make
hearing.
sure you fill out a form on the table if you would like to speak and give it to the clerk. Thank you.
And then there are a couple of other items that discussed with the Lamoses of activities they'd like to see on the property that they already fall under existing uses that we have and might serve as accessory uses to some of the retail and other uses that are already approved for the site. Here's a map of the site. I think everybody's very familiar with that at this point. This is the conceptual plan that was approved when we came to you in September of last year that showed the multifamily or condo uses there in the bright pink that's sort of on the western edge of the site. And nothing's new here. This is just showing you what they're allowed to do today as far as where these uses would occur. And it's this blue down in the lower right-hand corner, so to speak, and the orange are where this change of uses would apply. And again, this is the same approval. This is just more related to the transportation.
You said the blue, what is the blue?
Well, the pale blue that's in the lower right-hand corner.
Oh, the other, I'm sorry, I was looking at the blue on
I
the
can't
other side.
see what it's pointing to on this end. What is that? N4 and N3 and N2,
They're commercial buildings.
commercial? Because originally that was gonna be apartments or condos.
Right, and in September,
Right.
the approval was to move those to the western edge of the site and utilize that area for new retail buildings.
Just retail in the front of the property.
This is what was approved in September. And again, this is the same layout, just showing the transportation plan that accompanied that conceptual plan. And then again, concept is approved in September. These are the renderings of the structures that were proposed at that time. Just want to be clear here that, there's a threshold for what staff can approve. Everything else goes through the planning board and then to you for a final decision. There are some sort of fine lines in these thresholds, including this first bullet point that says the changes in the proportion of housing types that exceed 15% need to come to you. The Lamoses have shown us a couple of different ways of laying out the site now that were part of what staff did approve earlier this year, did not exceed that 15% threshold, which is what allowed staff to approve those. However, just want to let you know that we'll be monitoring closely any changes to see which approval process is required, and anything that needs to come to you certainly will. And as you see, the very last bullet point, once again, is why we're here today. Any additional changes to allowable uses do come back to this board, which is why you're seeing such a comprehensive list of what they feel like they need for making this a viable project. This is the conceptual plan that staff approved. It did not cross any of the thresholds that required it to come back to the board. But what you'll see is basically those, what we call towers, but they were, I believe they were ultimately approved for 65 feet in height back on that western edge. Those are gone in this plan that staff has worked with them on, and you're seeing some detached single family and some attached single family on the site. And then again, just letting you know what has transpired, not necessarily what's up for a decision this evening.
So you're saying they're not on the back now?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I guess I'm a little confused.
What they've done here is that they've changed those, consolidating all of those multifamily dwelling units that were in those 4 buildings. Instead of that, they're doing attached single family or condos, and that's what these yellow sort of running up the north, sort of center to north.
How tall are they gonna be?
Well, those will be limited by the 35-foot height that all of our residential dwellings are limited to by the UDO.
How many stories are they gonna be? How many stories?
I do not know, but
So,
Well,
we
35 feet,
we
you
limit
can't get-
based on
you-
35,
yeah.
yeah.
About 3 stories roughly.
2 to
35
3.
so
feet.
we're taking the single-family homes away, and now we're putting 5 sections of at least 2 to 3 story high
No, I
buildings.
think Mr. Lemos can explain. So one thing you've got to do is, the rule's not changed, but actually what's changed is what they're going to actually build. And what they've done is, if you look on the back part of that, you'll see the single family, the red dots. Those are single family now. In the
Right.
prior plan, there were 4, I believe, large towers
True,
that had,
and we
and
had a
those were
Discussion, yeah.
65+ feet high, whatever. So those now, based on requirements from the lender exactly, those are gone. So now they're putting in single family closer to the homes that are behind the complex, which I think, will be well received by everybody, because instead of having the tower. So that's just something you've got to go. I mean, in theory, they could still build those, but in reality, they're not, you know, based on, again, lending requirements and all that stuff that gets to be in the building, requirement. So that's a good change. I want to make sure we all understand.
I agree with
That's
that.
what this is about. Now, what you see in the yellow, that is a new location for the multifamily side. But those, unlike the high towers, are 2 stories. I don't know, Mr. Lemus can explain. But it's gonna be 2 or 3. So that was a big change. So you're not having towers, you're having more like what you see everywhere around here. More multifamily, 2-story, 35-foot homes. But you see on the side there, the single-family homes, 32, multifamily condos, 64. And so you see that's kind of the cap. So it's a much less, intrusive. Density in theory doesn't change. The hotel, that's different. That's up on the hill. And I think Mr. Lemus can fill in the blanks on the boutique rooms, how that's gonna factor
Well, do you
in.
have any renderings of those new
Yeah, they're
apartments?
in your packet.
Okay,
We're-
I see them.
Yeah, and we will get to those. I do want to just clarify that what you're seeing here has already been approved. That this did not meet the threshold of needing to come back to the board. This was something that was below that threshold, and I'll show you a little more detail in the next slide, that allowed staff to work with them to get this change approved that you're seeing here.
But Teresa, if you're standing on North Chapin Road, at a 35-foot building, you'll be looking at the roof. That's how far it is down that hole. So, you won't even notice it as being a tall building, no, at whatever height.
Has staff looked at this for the open space requirements?
Well, we don't have exact numbers on that, and this is a conceptual plan.
Okay.
And you know better than anybody in this room how that works, but
Okay.
obviously that'll be, we'll get into the meat and potatoes of that during TRC review, and they know what their requirements are.
Okay.
Where is the boutique hotel gonna be? Where is it? You have it on this map?
It's my understanding that it's going to be in the largest school building there in the center.
Oh,
just
gotcha.
Sort of that
Okay.
orange-red. Am I correct in that? No. Well, then I'm going to defer to our applicant.
Okay.
Yes, he can probably answer a lot of that question.
And then just to reiterate what staff did approve earlier this year, they gave us 2 possible concepts for the residential itself, and I pointed out to them that the one on the left would exceed that 15% change in residential use types that would require it to come back to this board, but that the one on the right used the same mix of single family versus condos that you approved in September. This time they did offer some floor plans for the product. Again, conceptual and not part of the decision for this evening, but just so you can see some of the work that's gone into what's expected on the site. And then also renderings showing the detached single family in this slide and this one. All right. For the decision that is being made tonight, which, or at your discretion when you're comfortable making that decision, it has to do with the allowable uses. One of the things that you'll need to do is also approve a statement related to consistency with adopted plans and whether the changes are reasonable and in the public interest. And staff has gone through the consistency with the Plan Development District standards. Really no change here. This is exactly what you've approved before. We do require that a minimum of 2 uses from this first set of bullet points be included in a planned development, and of course they do have that. And then the list of prohibited uses in a planned development are in that second set of bullet points, and of course none of these are proposed, and that this will be upheld. Compatibility with surrounding areas. Of course, staff does an analysis on this, and then The planning board weighs in, and then it comes to you for a final decision. We do feel that we have not had concerns posed about the proposed uses. We did receive an email from an adjacent property owner, which I believe has been shared with you, who had some concerns about the boutique hotel use. But we also feel like the parking requirements for some of these uses are also going to limit their size. And they will be transferred from other uses. So if it was a building for the boutique hotel that was previously proposed to be retail, we're not adding new parking requirements or new parking to that. It'll be transferred from the use that was already approved. So we do feel like the parking requirements are going to be somewhat limiting in how large some of these facilities for these uses will be. And then, of course, some of these uses will not operate at the same time of day, which will reduce those impacts as well. And here's where I mentioned that the parking will present some limiting factors on the size of some of these uses. Noise ordinance, of course, we have a noise ordinance in place that will apply here to any of these uses. And it does limit unreasonably loud, disturbing, and unnecessary noise within 100 yards of a dwelling or 25 yards of a publicly maintained street. We have a recommended list of conditions. Most of these are exactly what were approved in September, associated with that approval. Same conditions. Sounds like we might be adding one new one tonight about the funeral home and crematorium use being excluded. Nothing new here, but they will still be attached to this amendment approval. And as we go on, this is one that has changed. This condition was in the September approval, but the dates are different now because it referred to a November 15th, 2024 date, which has now become April 15th, 2025.
And I mean, I know we're not approving the plan because but I just want to get it straight in my mind for my people who may ask me. We are saying with this new model, there's going to be 54 multifamily units, which we've downsized from the towers, and we're going to have 18 single-family units.
I don't believe.
Is that correct, based on the numbers that I see on the map?
Back one more.
That one, that one.
Right, this is one of the options that they proposed, and this one I think was important to show you because it shows the entire site and where these different uses are. However, they came to me with these two specific concepts for the residential area, and I pointed out to them, what you see on the right is exactly what was approved before. They're still allowed to do that. We're not asking you to reduce those numbers. And the one on the left, it does constitute a change that would require them to come back to you if they wanted to move forward. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just thinking in my mind the number of people that's going to be there now versus how many originally we were thinking are going to be there. Because one of the issues that came up, I think in the planning board, was the traffic flow and things of that nature, you know, coming in, having another road. You know, I'm just trying to make sure it's still going to flow with all the issues we have in traffic issues in Aberdeen. I was just trying to visualize how many families we're actually going to have versus what we originally had been told.
Right. I mean, the project is evolving. I don't think anybody can,
We don't know yet.
you know, and it has to do with market factors and other things that are out of our control and that could not have necessarily been anticipated when this project was originally approved as a planned development. I think, and I don't want to speak for the applicant, but I think the interest now is making sure that it's a viable project. I did look at the the uses fall below the threshold for a traffic impact analysis. So
Okay.
we have not seen that for this project, and we
Including the
didn't
50
require it.
Right, and that includes the hotel.
The hotel
That'd be 50
actually
rooms
pulled that up today,
or more,
and
or less, sorry.
our traffic impact analysis threshold has to do with only peak AM, peak PM hours, and that use is proposed to, for 50 rooms, is proposed to add 28 AM peak hour trips and 30 peak PM hour trips, so it's far below the threshold for a TIA, and that's 50 occupied rooms, 50 rooms total, not just occupied rooms. Okay. And as far as the recommended conditions, we reached this one, which this one does constitute a change, primarily where the dates for closing of the property needs to occur. You had approved in September a residential density of 11.5 units per acre, so we're maintaining that. That's this condition number 6. Condition number 7 will allow the applicant to use some of the existing buildings on site as long as he receives the proper permits. There will be some TRC review, obviously. And then we've also asked for, and this is not new either, this was in the September document, that a covenants and restrictions document for a property owners association be provided, and we do usually require that, especially for residential subdivisions. And our public works director asked us to add this clause regarding garbage collection activities.
At the last meeting, we were discussing roads. Are the roads still going to be private?
That's my understanding. The new roads interior to the project, yes. And that concludes my presentation, although I'm happy to stay and answer any questions you have or return and answer questions. I do know that you want to hear from the applicant, and he wants to address you, so happy to bring him up at this point if you're ready.
And those that are here tonight that would like to speak on this, because it is a public hearing.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yes, sir.
Good evening, all. Thank you for having us again tonight, and thank you for taking the time to hear a little bit more about the project. Well, basically, these are modifications that comes in place because this project is being developed, and it's pretty much like a living creature. So each day we discover new things, and we adapt to the market, and we adapt to everything that is affecting or getting involved into this project. One of the much more important things that we see with very good eyes is all the work that it's been done on the North Sun Hills Boulevard by the DOT, and basically they are putting together into an easement that is inside our property, the new post and a bunch of new tensors that we didn't have at hand, and never had in hand the plans from the DOT with this special location and the boundaries, which now we have, and it's affecting a little bit the parking and the location of the buildings. For example, that building that we have there is supposed to be the boutique hotel and retail right in front of Highway 1. It has to be moved to the back part where the little orange and the other gray building is, right beside the buildings that the city is going to keep inside the project. Nothing major changes. It's just for better use of the parking and better layout on the master planning, and that drive us to the solution of the boutique hotel to be sitting there. And going back to a little bit to explain what is the vision that we have on a boutique hotel. The boutique hotel is something that is not a bed and breakfast, is not a typical inn. It's something a little bit more exclusive and well appointed. We see this and we limit our maximum rooms to 50, just in order to keep it on the perfect size and balance with all the vision of the project. So it has to be pretty much inside what we believe is a perfect fit for the buildings. And that's what we see there. We see this offering of the boutique hotel, and now that it's been added to the uses that we can do. By the way, we're not planning at all to do funeral homes or crematories, right? So you can rest assured that we're not going to do that. So on the boutique hotel, it's something that is going to be very special and very good for the community. And also the given fact that the auditorium, which the city owns, is right beside that. It's going to help a lot to the city as well, because it's going to be a complementary use for the future uses that the city is going to hold on your property. So that I believe that is going to elevate and put us a little bit of a trademark into Aberdeen. You know, everybody is on the North Sand Hills Boulevard is trying to maximize the density, maximize the use, trying to come up with very up to the maximum proposal I can do in the place. Well, we see things a little bit different. We did see this project as something that is going to be, the city is going to be part of it, but also it's something that we're going to be proud of doing and just living there for the future generations and for the community in general. Going back to the residential part, as we all know, we are pretty much very affected with the wetlands delineation on the back. So recently, on the last consultation that we did with the soil scientists and the Army Corps, it is very complicated to manage with the single-family homes, but still, we're trying to take the much of advantage of the single-family homes and trying to keep it balanced. In order to do that, well, might end up being less houses than we have there, and that we are planning to do that. As Pam was saying before, we can either go the two ways. We can go to the high rise with, you know, nobody likes it, and we are trying to stay away from that and give into the project a much more efficient multi-family solution. And that's why we come up with this proposal of the condo townhomes. We would like to actually exceed the amount of the condo townhomes if it is possible, in order to get a little bit more conscious with the wetlands delineation, which is actually affecting us a lot. Going back to the boutique hotel, which seems to be a very focal point into the conversation tonight. You're not going to hear any bad from that from me, obviously, but to be very, very much transparent, as I have always been when I've been having the pleasure to talk to you, it's I think that's a great solution. It's something that is going to be a difference on the place. It's going to add and not take from the location. when we decide not to take down the existing buildings for many reasons, not just for the density or any other, the normal developers will probably focus into it. This buildings has a lot of history. Aberdeen is a town that I've been discovering more and more and more, and we believe that adding this type of uses and the way we're thinking it, it's going to add a lot in that location. So we really want you to please consider these changes and start, allow us to start to moving forward in everything that we're planning. So very much, that's pretty much what we're thinking about right now. No major changes. Obviously, the final count on the parking lot will do the balance on the numbers of what we can really build, which is a relationship per parking spots versus buildings, and that is something that is going to be reviewed, and we will comply with everything that is necessary to get the approvals, and we're not planning to change anything on that. That's pretty much what it is. I don't know if you have any questions.
I just had one. You're keeping all the buildings except the one that you said was the shop. Is that the building?
No, I think that's.
Are you-
No, we're gonna keep all the
You're
buildings.
keeping every building, even,
I think
okay.
Yeah,
That's-
probably the shop is going to suffer some kind of modification, but for good, not for bad. But the location will be right there, and what we're planning to actually do there, if
That's
the
the orange one. Oh, the
yeah,
little one,
if the
okay.
boutique hotel is allowed to be there, we're planning to use it as the spa of the hotel. So it's going to complement that thing, which it's a very nice project that we, as I said before, we've been working through all the process to get this vision into reality. You can see now when you pass by a lot of changes and all the effect that the cleaning and everything that we have done there, calls attention and all the expectative that what is going to be done there versus, what was, the old buildings before. Another super important thing is the city is going to get a huge amount of benefits from the income that the project is going to produce, because we're adding, even though on all the existing buildings, new businesses and new taxpayers that it's going to fed the budget and the income for the city. The fact that we can build this boutique hotel over there is going to also add probably nice numbers to the city. So I think that we all need to see this 5 lights ahead and think a little bit more on what is the benefits that all of us we are creating with this project and for the city.
So the work that's being done where it's been clearing, that's your company that's been doing that,
Yeah,
correct? I didn't know
correct.
if that was
Yeah.
the DOT or just you
No,
as
no.
well.
DOT just
Yeah,
took,
I know they were in the front, but I didn't know in
yeah.
the back there, behind
yeah,
the,
it's us.
which was a kids learning garden or something, I think, at one time,
Correct.
when it was a school.
And that's us.
Because people
and-
ask me that, what's going on, what's going on? Well, there's a lot going on up there, I'm not sure who's doing
Yeah,
what.
DOT just took some trees down just where the post, on the easement, where they are going to, the easement that they do have.
Yeah.
We are taking care of everything that is being done over there. As I mentioned before, we are planning to put our offices there, which is a major decision for us. And we are so committed to the project and to the place that we're moving from Pinehurst to Aberdeen. So I think that's a good sign. And And yeah, we like you to see this with, as you always been, because actually I need to say that you have been very much involved and very good with this project and with us during all this time. I want to also congratulate the work that Paul and Pam has been putting together into all this process, with always with very good intentions and supporting this project at its best. So I want to recognize that too. And yeah, that's it.
Any more questions, any other questions? On the schematic we have, and we've seen these before, the entrances and exits, how do we get into this property? Is there only two?
We
Or
have
three?
five access
Four.
points.
Okay, there's more than one.
Yeah, there are five actually.
Five, okay.
Yes.
Another one here.
Just want to make sure there's enough
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
to get in and out.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Any? Thank you, and we do have some
Thank you so much.
citizens, thank you, that
Thank
would
you.
like to speak. Ms. Lee?
My name is Doris Lee. I am an Aberdeen
Mark,
resident
come up to the microphone, we can't hear you over
and
here.
taxpayer,
Yes, ma'am.
and I live on Thomas Avenue, which is bottlenecked. And
Yes,
it's been
ma'am.
bottlenecked for years. And we have two ways of getting out of our neighborhood. One is the Lakeshore Drive, which has a toilet sitting in the middle of the street right now from houses being built there. And cars cannot enter and exit unless they go around that commode that's sitting out in the middle of the street on Lakeshore Drive. And also, we have the exit on Elm Street where we can enter and exit that was paved years ago, but they never came back and repaired the pavement, so there's huge dips in the street as you're trying to come home from work or go to work as a taxpayer. And so my concern is, what is going to be done to keep us from, to help us as citizens and neighbors and taxpayers to be able to get to our homes and to be able to leave without so much congestion. The new building proposal that you have here, I know that you did say that there was 5 entrances.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm hoping that they won't add more traffic to those 2 streets, because that's the only way that we have to enter and exit our neighborhood.
If you're checking the proposal that I'm seeing, those entrances don't go below West Chapin. If you see where West Chapin is up there, there's an entrance down there, but they don't go anywhere down further towards where you are.
Okay, because I can't see that.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote on there, I wish we had copies that
Well,
they could
can we-
pass out of that, because sitting back there, you can't really see it.
I thought we brought up this one time before about that street, Thomas being landlocked.
It's gonna be
And I
brought
thought
up
we brought that
forever
up, and then we were
because
gonna
it's-
work on a way to solve that at some point in time in a past meeting.
That's been an ongoing story about Thomas Avenue, and if we can talk about it at a work session. And,
Okay, I just remember someone bringing that up at a meeting,
this-
and we were
this has
saying
been
that we would
around-
look into it.
This
We
has been around for a
haven't.
long time, and there's issues with
Yes, it has.
property owners over there.
Okay.
No, the issue is Forest Hills, because we've had the Channel 11 news in our neighborhood many years ago, back in the 90s, early 90s. And they came and tried to get us an exit. We used to have an exit
Yes,
out of
ma'am.
our neighborhood through Forest Hills.
I drove that exit. I drove through there.
Right, and I did too. But what I'm trying to say is, we used to have another way to get in and out of our neighborhood.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
they closed it, and the town has not supported us at all with getting it opened again. And now, they're going to put more traffic in the
I
2
see,
streets
yes,
that we
right,
have
right.
to get in and out of our neighborhood. And I'm very concerned about that, because, we want to add more taxpayers to the town, and we want to bring more people into the neighborhood. and all of these things, but you haven't stopped to say, you have people over here paying taxes. How are they gonna get to their homes? It's not just about money, it's about considering people. And that's the problem that I have, is that they keep adding more people into Aberdeen and keep building more and keep putting more structures like this in the neighborhood, but you have not stopped to say the people on Thomas Avenue are taxpayers and they deserve to be able to get to their homes and be able to leave comfortably without having a commode sitting in the middle of the street so that they can build more houses to bring in more people.
Is this a portalet, is what you're
Yes, it is.
Is that, Joe, you know anything about that? All right. Our building inspector should know if that's sitting in the road. It should not be sitting in the road. And we'll take get the building inspector to look into that, please.
Will do.
Does anyone know why that road was closed? Since you
I-
said you drove it?
It was never-
Well, because they built a house in Forest Hills on the road.
Oh.
There
They
wa-
put a fence up. I think, my opinion of it is, the houses and the people who lived in Forest Hills, they built expensive homes, and they didn't consider our neighborhood worthy enough to be able to go through,
there,
the people who
Well,
lived there.
somebody
to
had
be
owned the
able to
land.
go
It-
through
it-
that
it-
neighborhood.
They couldn't have just built a house on a
no,
town
it
road.
was a dirt road, and it was in the Forest Hills subdivision.
Okay.
And the people that own Forest
land.
Hills, the lands, somebody bought the property and
Okay.
built a house on the
That's-
road.
that's lovely.
But prior to that, I drove through there many times, and it was a dirt road.
One of the property owners on Thomas Avenue owned property on the end of that street and agreed to let them put a street there so
Mm.
that we could come out.
Yes, ma'am.
And they refused, they didn't touch that, they didn't do anything to try to make sure that that took place. Instead, they just looked the other way.
It was,
And it's like that a lot in my neighborhood. Right now, for the last 2 weeks, we've had water running down the street where the water supply, that is,
the hydrant.
Hydrant?
no, it's not the hydrant. There's plumbing, the water is running, well, it stopped now, they fixed it, but the way they fixed it, they came and put all this gravel and made the street narrower than it was already. So they put this big patch there with a mound of gravel, so you could barely get 2 cars through the street. And now we have this big mound on one side of the small, narrow street.
Hmm.
And so 2 cars cannot pass at the same time. And this is what our taxpayers are. I mean, our
Well,
money
maybe we were not
is
aware of
going to-
that. Maybe our Public Works was not aware of this issue, because I'm certainly sure if
Well,
it's a
what
town
are the
road, they need to go and
It's,
remedy
there,
this.
there's a long-standing issue, and
Okay.
it would be better in
Take it
a
up at
work
another
session,
time, yeah.
so we can
Yeah,
really
you
talk
better-
about this.
Let's get through his,
And
rezoning.
this is probably not gonna be I understand your concerns, but we're gonna put this on our agenda and
Okay.
bring this up, because this is not the night to talk about Thomas Avenue.
I do want to say this too, that I've gotten letters to come to these meetings,
Yes, ma'am.
and I have voiced my opinion and my concerns,
Yes, ma'am.
and I would like for them to be heard.
Yes, ma'am.
Instead of wasting my time sending me an invitation to come down here, only to turn a deaf ear to everything that I'm saying, because it is a concern of the neighbors in my neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am. And I am aware of some of the issues on that road, and this is not the night, because we're not gonna solve it tonight, but if we can get a work session and discuss it with our Public Works and everybody, maybe there's a solution.
well, and we can make visits. We've done that before. Several
sure.
commissioners and I have gone out to people's homes when there's an issue to see it with our own eyes, because,
That's where Habitat
Yeah.
built that new neighborhood.
Yes, and they have lots of new taxpayers over there, the Habitat community that they push to get over there. But in that same neighborhood is where all of this stuff
Yes,
is
ma'am.
going on.
yes,
The reason why I'm bringing it up tonight is because I surely and sincerely hope that whenever this project right here is going on, that the town would think about the people on Thomas Avenue as well. Because you keep, like I said, inviting more people in, but nobody's looking at our problem that we have off of Thomas Avenue
Well, I'm sure that you're gonna encounter a lot less traffic on Elm Street than the school had there, so because most of that traffic from the houses that he's gonna build are gonna go out the other way on Chapin.
Right, but it was a problem when the school was there.
Oh, yeah, I know,
Oh, yeah.
I've been there.
He said it'd probably be less.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot less traffic there than.
Right now, it's so that you have parallel parking on that street, on Elm Street already. And it's just a very narrow street,
Yes, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
so that's my concern.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this topic? Anyone else? All right. Hearing none, I'll close that part of it. And then, what is it, 2, consider proposed amendment to CZ 22-01 are reasonable in the public interest and consistent with adopted plans of the town of Aberdeen, and consider adoption of the reasonableness consistency statement offered by staff.
That would be, if you're ready to make motions this evening, that would be the first. And let me just mention that for the second motion, which addresses conditions, what I have done is added a condition number 9 that states all uses allowed in the personal services category are allowed with the exception of funeral homes and crematoriums. So for motion number 2, it would be with conditions as amended, if you.
We need to close out the public hearing first, though.
He did, he closed.
Who did? Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, this, the motion.
Well, can I say something before we vote?
Sure.
So it sounds to me like, and as Commissioner Ham's put it, you know, other than concerns that I had about, that it's gonna be less traffic, as he said, basically because we're not gonna have a 4-story building, 3 or 4 high-rises, so to speak. So with that being said, you know, when it talks about the reasonableness and is it consistent with our statement and the public interest, I feel much better about it as far as what he's presented tonight based on what was presented to us earlier, is the one in the middle, the one with the huge high-rise.
We make a motion?
There's a motion number 1.
I make a motion, the proposed amendment to CZ-22-01 are reasonable and in the public interest and consistent with adopted plans of the town of Aberdeen, and the planning board hereby adopts the reasonableness and consistency statement offered by staff.
And pardon me, that should not say planning board, it should say.
Oh, I didn't think so. I
commissioners.
thought that sounded kind of weird.
That I failed to change.
Okay. Town of Aberdeen Board of Commissioners, how about that?
It should be as amended.
As amended, yes.
Yes.
All right, that's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There is a second. Discussion, any further discussion on motion 1? There's a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 2, the Aberdeen Board of Commissioners approves of the proposed amendments to CZ 2201 with conditions as recommended by staff or as amended.
And as amended,
And
in
as
this case, if you want to add that condition number 9.
Yeah.
Motion so noted.
There's a second. Is there a second? For number 2?
Second.
There is a second. Discussion from the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right, so then we're at 3, is that correct? Consider approval of proposed amendments to CZ 2201 with proposed conditions requested by staff. Is Is that the
Sorry.
same thing?
I think it is the same thing.
Okay, well, it's on there twice.
We've done
then.
those.
It is,
Okay.
You see it? Is that a different thing or is that the same thing?
The two motions are listed separately, so
Okay.
We've
two
done
was your
Okay.
first motion,
Okay,
three was your
okay.
second motion.
And had a 3 on it, so
So,
that
yes.
confused me. Okay,
Okay.
so we're through with this, right?
Yes,
Okay, so I'll close the
Thank
public
you.
hearing, and all of this is over. Now we're down to B. Consider approval of staff submitting a letter to the local state delegation at the General Assembly and to the Board of County Commissioners in opposition of the downzoning provisions of Senate Bill 382. And, Mr. Savaston can talk about that one.
Yes, Mayor, I know you've been part of these discussions. I think part of this came up at the mayors and managers meeting, and it was also, has been referenced in different joint meetings with the different towns in Moore County. But at the mayors and managers meeting, the last really couple meetings, you may recall this bill, Senate Bill 382. It came out and it was part of another bill, so it didn't get a lot of play really, but it had some kind of special language in there that in a nutshell, basically it limited almost entirely the ability of towns and counties to, without an application, to just downzone a piece of property, which up to this time, local governments have always had that ability. Didn't happen much, but it could happen. So this bill got rid of that ability. Doesn't mean it can't happen with the consent of the applicant property owner. It can still happen in that regard. But it's just like a change to a zoning map for like the uses becoming more limited, or a change to the actual zoning to become less intense of a use. Towns are now prohibited. So it really, there was no consultation with towns in Moore County at all. Period. No ask, no discussion, no nothing at all.
I agree.
So, you know, you ask, well, who asked for it in Moore County? Nobody can really answer that question. So here we are. There's a bill that was passed that radically changes the rules of zoning in North Carolina and voted on by our delegation in Moore County, and nobody asked for it. So this is in response to that. And just so you know, once it passed and, you know, when everybody kind of dug through the whatever act it was in with a different name, like the Hurricane Act of whatever, and found out what it actually said, there was pretty radical response from virtually, you know, vast majority of the towns and counties saying, what have you done? And so the General Assembly has received that for the last several months. And now there are several, probably, I don't know, 15 or so local bills that are going through by the delegations from different towns and counties around the state, cutting them out of this bill. Saying, oh, well, that bill, we're not changing the bill, at least not yet. I'm not saying that won't change, but cutting them out of the bill to say, well, the bill's still law for the state unless you're in this town or that county. So that's going through, which is one way to fix a, let's just say, a problematic new law, as opposed to just, you know, rescinding the law in full and starting again with whatever the intent was. So word has it that the intent for this bill came out of a community outside of Charlotte, and everybody else got thrown into it. Not really sure the whole story there, if we'll ever know. But so there have been some discussions with the county commission, and I can't speak for them. There has been a receptive discussion about opposing this bill. And so this is really just a letter, a memo to our state delegation saying, hey, we have a problem with this bill and we'd like for you to consider either, you know, undermining it or rescinding it, or passing a, you know, local act to cut us out of it. That's what this does. This is more of a joint effort, like from all of the municipalities within Moore County. We can also do our own if we want to do something more independent. And so you've got the information there. The other bill, which I just put by way of reference, the SB 166, it's got other very similar problems, not in the downzoning, but just other things. that again went through without anyone asking or requesting those things that had an impact to local governments. But really, the action tonight is really for SB 382, and just to sign off on this letter memo to our local delegation.
I think this is a great idea, because when I brought it up to Senator McInnes myself, his comment to me was that he'd heard from the other side, but not from like our side, the towns and municipality sides about it. And I said, well, we can take care of that, because I'm hearing a lot of negative things out here about it, and I think you need to look into it. So at least you're sending it to the right people, whether they move on it or not.
When it first came out, it was just Moore County, wasn't it?
No, this is
No,
different.
It was
And
from
this is-
Charlotte.
This is a different one.
No, this is
I
different.
know,
You're
but the
thinking
same
of
principle.
You're thinking of the ETJ bill.
No, this is
That
for the
came
whole
out,
state.
that was, yeah.
This one now is for the whole state.
So this is a different one. I know, just for the record, there is another ETJ bill that just got filed about
Yeah,
last week.
there's another one out there floating again. This one really has impacted some of the towns in Moore County that were doing their land use plans. And Cameron really got stuck with this thing because it was retroactive, what was it, 15, what?
6 months, 180 days, 6 months.
See, it went back. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but a piece of legislation that goes backwards and catches you, just to me, just flies in the face of, all right, I did something 6 months ago, and now 6 months later, it's null and void. And Cameron had done their land use plan and got hammered with this thing, because now it went back, and what all they did, all the time that Cameron spent and the money they spent is null and void. This is another example, and
Government
this
overreaching.
is the soapbox. It's another example. Somebody has a beef with somebody, and they stick it on a 500-page bill that nobody, I can't say nobody, a lot of people don't read. And all of a sudden it comes out and you go, oh my goodness, look what happened. And the towns the meetings we've been meeting with some of the other mayors and towns that we've been to are all upset about it, and they're all wanting us to join in on a joint effort to send it to our delegation to see if something can't be done about this, because if this stands, it's really going to hurt the towns in not only Moore County but North Carolina.
So, Paul, this letter we're sending here is just for the Senate Bill 382, correct?
That's right. Right.
But can we go ahead tonight also and authorize you to send a letter on our behalf against
166.
SB 166?
Absolutely.
I think that's what we ought to do as well.
Yeah,
Just so go ahead and head that one off.
I'm
Just go ahead and put our opposition out there.
Sure, I agree.
somebody that can look into this. There's some issue out there in North Carolina that somebody wants to do away with the extraterritorial jurisdiction by any means, hook or crook, sticking them in bills that people don't look at or don't read. And there's something out there that's floating around North Carolina to do away. You know, they tried to do away with just Moore County not long ago.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of opposition with that one. Now it's come back, let's just try it again, we'll do the whole state. I'm mystified as why people are against the ETJs. I know why there is, but I'm not gonna say it. I don't need to put myself in liable up here, but there's a reason why there's people out there fighting to do away with the ETJs. And they've been around, I think, in North Carolina for something 70 or 80 years or something like that. And I'm not sure about the number, but there's something afoot. And in my opinion, doing away with ETJs would be harmful to the towns. And it would be harmful to Aberdeen. So, well, let's see where this one goes. All right, anyone else? Paul, you can
Do we have
get
to have a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we authorize the attached letter opposing Senate Bill 382 and also authorizing town manager to write a letter in opposition to Senate Bill 166 as
I
well.
second it.
There's a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. That closes B. We're down to 8, other business. Other business, anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just want to kind of mention, what she spoke on about Thomas Street,
Yes, ma'am.
because before I was even commissioner, I think Vanessa
Mhm.
came down here about that. I wasn't a commissioner at that time, and this is my second term. So I'm hoping that we will, I kind of hate when we don't
Well,
jump in and say something or do something, but
yes, ma'am.
that was
It-
about almost 8 years ago.
We need to put it on the agenda for the work session,
Okay.
because I have some information about it, and there may be, Joe probably knows some also, so,
Uh-huh.
and,
And I'd like to make a visit out there if I may.
it's a public road.
Yeah, just to see
Yeah.
the
Just right
conditions.
out there, it's a public road. Yeah, and there is an issue, but this tonight is, we're not gonna solve it tonight.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? If you would indulge me just a second, when we did our retreat at the police department, the budget retreat, I think Joe, was it there or no, it was in here. Joe had brought up the fact that in his budget proposal, the community center on Wilder Avenue, correct? Did you do that? I think you did. Who did that? Oh, Timmy, I'm sorry, Tim. Yeah, facilities coordinator. Yeah, he brought up something about the community building on Wilder Avenue. And I know that there were several of you that may have asked that, well, what is that? Or where is it? And it is on Wilder Avenue. All right, if you'll give me just a second. And Paul, this is something that you're going to know, this will be new for you. This is dated July, 28th day of July, 1939. All right, a special election shall be held in the town of Aberdeen on the 5th day of September, 1939, for the proposal of submitting to the qualified voters of said town, which is Aberdeen, for their approval or disapproval, the ordinance entitled, quote, an ordinance authorizing issuance not exceeding $2,500 in bonds, Aberdeen issuing bonds, of the town of Aberdeen, North Carolina, for the erection of the building to be used as a community center for public amusement and entertainment, adopted by the Board of Commissioners of said town on the 28th day of July 1939, and indebtedness proposed to be incurred pursuant to said ordinance. So in 1939, the town was asking to issue bonds. Now, I don't know the last time Aberdeen issued a bond. I mean,
For $2,000, it's been a while.
it's $2,500, $2,500, and they were gonna build this building for $2,500. And it's a big building. If you've seen it, it's a big building. Section 2, here, the polls shall be open, so there's gonna be a vote. The polls shall be open on the day of said special election between sunrise and sunset, and each person whose name may be registered as herein provided shall be entitled to vote. Section 3, the following registrars and judges of election are hereby appointed for the holding of said special election in the said polling places and voting precincts of the town. The registrar, there was a registrar whose name was J.V. Faree. That was my grandfather. All right, then it says judges of elections, Dunk McLean, a lot of people remember Mr. McLean, and Robert Farrell, which was my father. And then it goes on, places of voting. Here's a good one. Now, I'm confused about this. I thought I knew a lot about old Aberdeen. Place of voting, the old Western Union office between the Bank of Pinehurst and Freeman Furniture Store on Sycamore Street. Now, I don't know where that is. Sycamore Street's right out here. I knew there was
Was
a
that the
bank
building
of,
that burned down at the end of Sycamore?
no, the bank
That
of,
was a meat place.
yeah, the Bank of Aberdeen, excuse me, the Bank of, Pinehurst. Now, I knew there was a Bank of Pinehurst in Aberdeen, I knew that. And then the Freeman Furniture Store on Sycamore. Well, I'm not sure where those two places would have been. All right, just bide with me just a few more minutes. There shall be a new registration of voters for the purpose of said election. The books to be opened on Saturday, August 12, 1939, and to be closed on Saturday, September 2nd, 1939, remain open during all days within said period of 3 weeks, except Sunday and legal holidays. Section 5, the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to provide and furnish to said election officers the necessary registration books, ballots, and ballot boxes for use in said election. So what this is saying is the town citizens were going to vote on the $2,500 bond that the town of Aberdeen was going to issue. Section 6, the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish a notice of said special election of said new registration at the manner prescribed by law in, here we go, in the Sand Hill Citizen, a newspaper published in the town of Aberdeen. Everybody remembers the Sand Hill Citizen. After some consideration, the foregoing ordinance was adopted by the following roll call voters. You know how many voters there were? 3.
Only 3 people voted for the building.
Dr. Medlin. There's Dr. Medlin's right here. There's Dr. Medlin was one of them. Mr. Lockie, there's Mr. Lockie, right over there. That was 2 of them. And J.B. Edwards, Mr. Edwards was the one that ran the theater, which was over here in this lot where you park cars now. The theater's gone, so there was only 3 people. It says ayes, and then it says noes, none. Now, here we go. Upon motion of Mr. Lockie, the following resolution was unanimously adopted. 3 people.
There were only 3 people who knew about it in town.
Well, there it is. So, Paul, there it is. There is a precedent. The town has done bonds. If you want to think about doing some bonds, it's been done in.
If you want to work somewhere else too.
Hey, it's up for vote, that's all.
$2,500 to build that building and 3 votes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, there you go. So that tells you the story about the community center over there. And it was used as a community center for a number of years, but we've leased it out to the AA group, and they've been over there taking care of it for years. If you're not familiar where it is, it's on Wilder Avenue. It's a long brick building. And I think it was designed by the same man that designed some of the other buildings in Aberdeen, some of the homes. I'm not sure. I think it was Mr. McMichael who and I can't prove that, the Pages knew him, the Page family.
I just pulled up an old Aberdeen business directory, and it says Freeman Furniture on Sycamore Street, but no
address.
number.
Well, Sycamore Street only goes so far.
Yeah, it
And I
shows
don't-
Farrell's Cafe. Was there Farrell's?
Well, that's where the pizza place is.
Sycamore Street.
Well, that's
yeah.
where the
Okay.
pizza grazia, whatever they call it now. Anyway, I thought that was interesting because we brought this up the other night, trying to figure out what was the community center, and now we know the story on it.
I was like, Harlan,
Interesting, a little
living in
bit
this
of
little
Aberdeen
town
history.
at that time.
Any others for other business? Any others? All right, madam,
Make a motion to adjourn.
motion and a second, all in favor?